Between a Rock and a Hard Place. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast of The Ordinary Maverick. This is Ajay, your host, an ordinary maverick, sharing real life thoughts and experiences and maverick tips. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please do so, and you'll not miss another episode. Just a few weeks back, I was jet skiing in the ocean off the coast of northern Australia with the most striking backdrop, the beautiful Magnetic Island. Known affectionately as Maggie by locals, it is located off the coast of Townsville in northern Queensland. More about the island and our adventures there in another episode, but for this one, I'd like to speak about the rocks on the island. The island is well known for its distinctive environment and picturesque landscape featuring large granite boulders along with hoop pines, sandy beaches, and fringing coral reefs. The spectacular landscape is because of the volcanic force that pushed molten granite to the surface, forming the island almost 275 million years ago. Over time, the volcanic rocks weathered away, the underlying mass decomposed along fracture lines and created today's extraordinary landscape of rounded domes and boulders, many of which are larger than a house and spectacularly placed. Almost they seem to be balanced on one another. An advantage of jet skiing in the ocean was that we got the oceanside view of these rocks, which was simply stunning. Perhaps you have heard about rock fracturing? If not, let me explain quickly. A fracture is any separation in a geological formation, such as a joint or a fault, that divides the rock into two or more pieces. And these fractures are important because they provide pathways for fluid flow. And many times, the petroleum, geothermal, and water supply reservoirs form in fractured rocks. The rock fracturing phenomena is particularly spectacular in Magnetic Island as they have led to the creation of iconic rock formations that are awe-inspiring. As I gazed at the rocks and the interesting formations, I was reminded of the time when we did kloofing in South Africa. We had to literally hike between big rocks, almost like two sides of the mountain during our kloofing adventure, and the only thing that had found its way between the rocks was water. Yes, water being fluid finds its way, and I can now relate to the concept of rock fracturing and how these formations are formed, and one can get water reservoirs. Both these moments, the one where we squeezed ourselves between rocks and tried to get through them, and as I saw the rocks on the island, I am reminded of the saying, between a rock and a hard place. I'm sure you all have heard this one before and maybe used it too. It's when you are in a situation when you are faced with two equally difficult alternatives. It's like, what do I do? Both the choices in front of me are not the best, and I'm really caught in a bind. Well, in such a case, you definitely need to find a way somewhat similar to rock fracturing and water finding its way. Let me share a recent incident where we found ourselves in this tough spot few months back when we were exploring moving our pet dogs from Bangladesh to India. Now, we have relocated many a times, as I have shared in my earlier podcasts, and our dogs have too. In fact, as dogs go, I have to say ours are well traveled. They have been to 4 continents already and lived in 4 cities, moving and adjusting to 9 different homes. Quite a feat, I must say. It's not been easy at all for them and for us, and each time they must travel, we are all a bit anxious and do everything possible for a safe and uneventful journey. However, the travel between Bangladesh and India proved to be hugely challenging, although the two countries are just hop, skip, and jump. And it was because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the effect on travel. Plus, the border closures and restrictions across different countries just didn't allow for smooth itineraries. So, we were given the option of having the dogs fly further east and have a long transit time and then fly west again. Given the challenges with the flight changes and restrictions in country regulations, this was not an easy one. And the other option was to have the dogs drive down by road for over 10 to 12 hours and then cross the border by road and again drive for another 8 hours and then go by train for 24 hours to the final destination. Oh gosh, that would have been killing. Imagine both the options were tough. And not to mention the third one, which was to leave them in Bangladesh and get them rehomed there. Of course, the last one was not an option actually, as our dogs are part of a family, as often is the case, and so leaving them behind was not on the table for consideration. And so, we had the other two options, and both made us feel like we were caught between a rock and a hard place for sure. So we, kind of fractured. What I mean is, we found a way. It was a journey of fact finding, endless calls, and reach outs to different people across countries, trying to understand procedures and options. This went up to finding out the type of aircraft that comes into Bangladesh and the cargo space. It was super intense. But in the end, through our own efforts and some amazing pet lovers, friends, and connections, we did manage to have both our dogs travel through the shortest route by air and get home. It felt nothing short of a miracle given the myriad of challenges. Many lessons along the way, and today we share our experience with other pet parents to help them out in similar situations and are ever grateful for all who do so much for ensuring safe pet travel. Coming back to rocks, there's a certain fascination with rock formations in the world. We have seen our fair share too. Recently, the Three Sisters in the Blue Mountains in Sydney, and then similar such formations in many cities and countries across the world. Oh yes, that reminds me of the famous rock garden in Chandigarh. Although not only made of rocks, the garden is a sculpture garden for rock enthusiasts and is built from industrial home waste and discarded items. It's one of the must-see sites in the city of Chandigarh in northern India. There are many other rock gardens in the world that are stunning, and of course, one can create a rockery in a small space and have your own oasis with rocks, waterfalls, and plants. When done well, these gardens are easy to maintain and use less water, as well as help turn difficult terrains into areas of beauty. We have also stayed in rocks. Yes, our experience in staying inside a rocky mountain on the mountainside in a town on the outskirts of Johannesburg in South Africa, it's stored in our memory bank. Interesting architectural designs that used the mountain rock and carved out cottages, and one felt connected to the mountains while staying there. With all this talk on rocks, how can I not speak about the famous one, the Rock, Dwayne Johnson? He is known as the Rock, as that's his ring name. He was a popular wrestling personality and then switched over to Hollywood. Well, there are some life lessons put together by The Rock, and some of these definitely resonate with me. Let me share some of them. Lesson 1. Always be the hardest worker in the room. Lesson 2. Understand you're not always going to win at life, but sometimes losing makes you stronger. Lesson 3. Make sure your loved ones know they are appreciated. Lesson 4. When life gets tough, always keep your head up. Lesson 5, and that I particularly like, is enjoy every minute of your life. And that's the perfect note to end this episode. Fellow Mavericks, regardless of anything, hold on to this thought and act on it. Enjoy every minute for sure. Do keep writing your comments and sharing your feedback via our Instagram at The Ordinary Maverick or through our hashtag The Ordinary Maverick. I love hearing from you. This is Ajay signing off and wishing you have an amazing day, a super amazing year. Keep well, stay safe. Credits. This podcast series was put together as a team effort from the Bhardwaj family. Concept, design, title, researchers, and reviewers Ajay, Sanjana, Avantika, and Niharika Bhardwaj. Script, Sanjana. Cover design, Niharika.